Hi there, everyone. Welcome to another informative weekend edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Inside our pages today, we explore matters of health, the arts, and more. Sit back and enjoy the half-hour journey.
Coffee was introduced to Jamaica in 1728. Creighton Estate was established around 1765. And the Blue Mountain Range and the central region of Jamaica, which is the Grand Ridge of Jamaica, were the major coffee producing regions. Currently, we are fully certified under the Rainforest Alliance, and we are the very first entity in the Caribbean region to attain that certification. Now, the Blue Mountain Range of Jamaica is a microclimate of the island and has provided the perfect conditions for growing the Arabica coffee. A typical day in the Blue Mountain, the most sunlight is in the mornings from about 11:32 to 4 p.m. You know, this is the weather that we experience. This is a norm in the Blue Mountain. It's nothing unusual, for the range to be covered with mist. And after sunset, the temperature basically goes below 20 degrees Celsius. So those are the perfect ingredients to develop high quality coffee. The culture here is rich. We're an extremely creative, set of people. In Jamaica, there's everything. If you're a nature lover, we have it. If you like the wetlands, we have it. Great coffee, great food. God has been good to us. The God has been good to us. The universe has been good to us, as a country. And this rock, I love it, man. I love it.
Thanks again for being here. Last week, if you were here, you saw us explore some of the Trade Board's strategies for improving the ease of doing business relating to cross-border trade and regulation. That exploration continues this week as we focus on the 4E strategy.
The Trade Board Limited (TBL), through its 4E strategy, is improving the ease of exporting with its best-in-class services.
Our mission is to efficiently support Jamaica's economic development by contributing to an enabling ecosystem for trade growth and development, increase local and foreign investment, and sustain job creation through the provisions of relevant trade-related information, the issuance and regulation of trade license, and certification.
Engaging in cross-border trade has the benefits of increasing companies' income from sales and reducing the unit costs of production. Companies engaged in export trade also gain new knowledge, experience, insights, and opportunities.
So at the Trade Board, we develop what we describe as our 4E strategy for supporting the growth of exports.
This strategy involves educating, enabling, expediting, and evaluating.
The Jamaica Trade Information Portal, JTIP, is one of the primary tools through which the Trade Board Limited provides information and education to traders via the internet. It provides a one-stop portal through which businesses wishing to engage in cross-border trade involving Jamaica can obtain all the relevant information they need. The JTIP includes information on trade laws, regulations, standard procedures, guidelines, tariff fees, taxes, and the details of trade agreements, etc.
Recent expansions to the portal include presenting content also in Spanish and French. An Export Academy offers customized training for entities or individuals to enhance their trading know-how.
It's not like you have to matriculate to get into a university or anything like that. What it really is that we have developed an instrument where we capture from the potential exporter what exactly they want to do. Based on how they fill out that questionnaires, we know where the critical knowledge gap is. Right? And what we do, we send that information to them automatically. Right? And then we have a number of quizzes and so on and follow-ups that take place.
The Export Academy is a free online service provided by the TBL. The Trade Board is also engaged with providing market intelligence and trade compliance information through its enhanced website, which will become accessible at the end of July 2023.
Jamaican businesses who register with the Trade Board Limited will be able to go online and identify the best target markets for their products and services, access doing business guides, collect relevant market information about any country or industry of interest. Will also help to find new opportunities worldwide.
As an enabling entity, the Trade Board guides manufacturers and exporters in their conformance to the various trade criteria. Exporters also get contact details of potential interested parties, market experts, and relevant trade organizations in importing countries. There is also hand-holding through the trade process and access to tools like duty calculators and a currency converter. In support of its strategy to expedite, the TBL is employing various approaches to reduce the time it takes to do business. Efficiency, reliability, and speed are enhanced through up-to-date technology that modernizes trade and digitizes all its processes.
One of the recent reforms to enhance export is the electronic certificate of origin. We have developed and introduced a digital version of the product analysis form, which has significantly sped up the process of product analysis, application, and assessment for compliance with the criteria of the respective agreements. We commit that within 1 working day or 8 hours, you will get your export license. Certificate of origin, also within the 8-hour period. Letters of origin, 8-hour period, etc., etc. And these commitments are made public, so our exporter knows what to expect in terms of turnaround time, and they can plan their business accordingly.
The fourth strategy of the Trade Board is to evaluate by continuously reviewing operational efficiency and effectiveness. The entity is also regularly assessing and responding to changing trade context domestically, regionally, and internationally.
Whenever you hear the following tone, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, will be giving information on an emergency situation affecting the island. Please be on the alert and listen to your radio and television for further information. This was a test of the emergency alert system, brought to you by ODPEM.
We are within the Atlantic hurricane season, which spans the period June 1 to November 30. This is predicted to be an active season, and considering the possibilities, it's a good idea to learn about disaster shelters, where to find them, what to bring with you, what applies when you get there. The time to plan for an emergency is before it strikes.
It doesn't always have to be a hurricane. A disaster can strike at any time, natural or man-made, and you may not be thinking about a shelter. But shelters are a critical part of the government's disaster plan to ensure the safety of citizens in the event of a natural or man-made catastrophe. let's rewind a little. Do you know the nearest shelter in your community?
We use schools as shelters, community centers, churches. All of these are utilized for the purpose of assisting persons that would need accommodation in times of emergencies. And so that is the role of the shelter. In terms of the number of shelters that we have, it could be in the region over 900, about 900 shelters that we have across Jamaica.
We always grab our phones when we're in trouble. And this time we are searching for the nearest emergency shelter on the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management (ODPEM) website. Select the Shelters tab, choose your parish, then download the listing to see all available shelters in or near your community. You can also browse the interactive map and click on the red dots to identify the shelters. ODPEM also updates its website with the new shelter listings once the annual inspections are completed.
The reason for this is because sometimes some schools can be removed from the listing, and so we would need to, of course, have that information properly and well communicated for persons to be able to know what to do when it is time to go to a shelter. Disaster shelters are activated in two ways. They're done nationally and they're done at the parish level, parish or community specific, for parish or community specific impacts. Now, large-scale hurricanes, for example, when we have lead time, so sometimes when we're tracking these storms and we have lead time 2 or 3 days, then the shelter managers are activated, right, alerted through the parish mechanism, and so they are on standby to open the shelters. So informing the public, that is done through the formal mechanism of press releases that are sent to media houses to let, of course, persons know that shelters are activated, and persons should, of course, go to their nearest shelter. The ODPEM also passes information about shelter activation through our various other social media handles, the Facebook and Twitter and all of the others. And of course, where communities are generally impacted all the time, these persons know their shelters, they know their shelter managers, and so, the information is kind of fluid.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosemary Livingston.
Good afternoon, Ms. Livingston. I'm Chevelle.
I'm here to tell you, Chevelle, the things you should take to the shelter and what you should not take. Okay? You can carry stuff like tin sardine, tin mackerel. You can have a little lemonade drinks, oats, and your biscuit, and your lasco, and your wipes, your clothes. Make sure you come with your sanitary napkin.
Do I have to put the clothes in a plastic bag?
Yes, in case of there is rain, you have them in the plastic bags. You come with your medication. And if you have children, you carry the medication. So you plastic them. What you should not take to the shelter: no knife, no cigarettes, no pets, and no bad behavior.
Okay, that is it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
The COVID-19 pandemic shifted emergency shelter operations with an added focus on keeping persons safe from transmissible diseases. Shelter managers are trained to observe COVID-19 protocols, and this includes having an isolation area. The safety of every emergency shelter is paramount, and this means that shelter rules must be followed.
This government, since 2016, have made arrangements that once the shelters are occupied, we will provide food supplies for persons within the shelters. So the rules that are laid out are clear. It is written all over the board. You see it. Shelter rules.
Emergency shelters are also being retrofitted to provide better mobility for disabled persons. Shelter managers across all parishes are trained each year and provided with refresher trainings in an ongoing program. According to the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, IFRC, disaster preparedness isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do.
Given our realities, some communities are vulnerable, and so the shelters would definitely not be in such a vulnerable location. And so where those cases exist, there is an arrangement at the municipal corporation level where the vulnerable population is actually transported to these shelters.
Proper nutrition is key to healthy growth and development, and for newborns, the best nutrition is provided from breastfeeding. Continue with us now for some steps to successful breastfeeding.
If a baby mother is tired or something, I can play a part in feeding baby.
Me taking part in breastfeeding also helps in bonding, mother-child as well as father.
And I'm anticipating that he will be there supporting me throughout.
Babies are born with the reflex to look for their mother's breast. However, many mothers need practical support with positioning their baby for breastfeeding and making sure their baby is correctly attached to the breast to prevent sore nipples and discomfort in the first few days after birth. Breastfeeding takes time and practice for both mothers and babies, and support from a lactation consultant or other skilled professionals can help them overcome the challenges. Government, with the support of the World Health Organization and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has been creating a healthcare environment which protects, promotes, and supports breastfeeding. This involves the National Baby-Friendly Hospital Initiative, where hospitals are certified to global standards in facilitating breastfeeding and the health of mothers and infants. There is also the National Infant and Young Child Feeding Network. Public health facilities certified baby-friendly include the Alexandria Community Hospital in St. Anne, Princess Margaret Hospital in St. Thomas, Lioneltown Hospital in Clarendon, Port Antonio Hospital in Portland, Port Maria Hospital in St. Mary, and Mandeville Regional Hospital in Manchester.
It gives a framework that enables mothers to acquire the skills they need to breastfeed exclusively for the first 6 months, which is 180 complete days, followed by complementary foods and continued breastfeeding for 2 years and beyond. The aim is to give the best start in life for all newborns by creating a healthcare environment that supports breastfeeding as a normal, natural option.
WHO guidelines provide a 10-step approach to successful breastfeeding that is being followed by baby-friendly health facilities. This includes having a hospital policy that promotes breastfeeding and not infant formula, bottles or teats. It also makes breastfeeding care a standard practice and monitors the support being given. Baby-friendly health facilities are required to ensure staff competency through training on breastfeeding support strategies. Breastfeeding is also encouraged by the hospitals through sessions that discuss its importance for babies and mothers and teach women how to feed their baby. Healthcare experts are expected to encourage skin-to-skin contact between mother and baby soon after birth and help mothers put their baby to the breast right away, an important practice that helps the baby find and latch onto the breast, and one which, if done within 1 hour after birth and then frequently after, helps to establish breastfeeding. Mothers should also be assisted by health professionals who will give practical breastfeeding support by checking the baby's positioning, attachment, and suckling, and help mothers with common breastfeeding problems. Mothers are encouraged to give their baby only breast milk unless there are medical reasons, prioritizing donor human milk when a supplement is needed. The breastfeeding expert will also help mothers who want to formula feed to do so safely. Almost all mothers produce the right amount of milk for their babies, and production is determined by how well the baby is latched onto the breast, frequency of breastfeeding, and how well the baby is removing milk with each feeding. Baby-friendly health facilities ensure mothers are able to stay with their newborn day and night, especially if the baby is sick. This is also known as rooming in. They are also required to help mothers know when their baby is hungry and not limit breastfeeding times. Mothers should also be given counsel on the use and risk of feeding bottles, teats, and pacifiers. And they ought to be referred to community resources for breastfeeding support. Learning to breastfeed can take time and patience. It is a skill that mother and baby learn together, a skill worth having.
We're near the close of Jamaica Magazine for today, but before the journey ends, let's delve into the world of the arts. This is the story of visual arts in Jamaica and its transformative journey from independence to present day.
The music often reflects what's happening in the visual arts. There are several visual artists that have designed album covers for a lot of other people like Peter Tosh and so on.
The head of the school at that time was Barrington Watson, and he set about putting in place a diploma program.
Since independence, visual arts expression in Jamaica has shifted significantly.
The story of Jamaican visual arts remains a strikingly colorful mixture. It's one that's layered with the details of artists stroking their brushes with intentionality. Some using their toothstone axes to create sculptures that tell stories of our blackness. Others whose pencils and chalks have mastered realism, and then more who are preserving elements of our historical experiences and newer issues. The last 60 years of Jamaica's visual arts landscape easily provides a fully immersive and stimulating experience. Along with independence came a new impulse to establish national identity through different areas of the country, including the visual arts.
The visual arts in Jamaica began not very long before independence, with the return of Edna Manley and Norman Manley to Jamaica. Edna Manley was herself an artist. When they returned to the island, she is famously remembered for remarking that she saw nothing that reflected the people of Jamaica. In other words, drawings that were being done by children in schools looked like European children. And she set about trying to change that with her own work and with the establishment of a school at the Institute of Jamaica. So independence and the early development of visual arts in Jamaica coincided greatly.
This interest to see more Black representation prompted the introduction of modern art ideas from artists like Albert Huey, Milton Harley, and Barrington Watson. Education in art, particularly through the School of Visual Arts, moved from part-time classes,
offering courses in sculpture and courses in painting. They started also ceramics with Cecil Ball. So there was Albert Huey and Cecil Ball were her co-founders of the school.
Introducing classes granting diploma, now with a new name, the Cultural Training Center, and later formalization by the state as the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts emerged with the degree granting status.
We were very fortunate to have leaders in the early days and after independence who thought that developing Jamaica culturally was very central to developing the country. Both Michael Manley and Edward Siaga were responsible for the Cultural Training Center.
In that period too, the National Gallery of Jamaica emerged, displaying and celebrating true Jamaican art. Through the gallery, many of our self-taught artists were able to exhibit under the label of Intuitive.
People like Brother Brown, people like Capo. In Jamaica, we had a lot of artists who never went to school, but they could create images that had a certain emotional power.
It was David Boxer who coined the term intuitive to describe this aspect of Jamaican art, a term now recognized and used globally. He rejected such terms as primitive, naive, and folk, as he felt that there was a sophistication there of color and form that immediately challenged the very designation, primitive.
Also, in the 80s into the 90s, you began to see a little bit more of individual expression, more of artists producing artwork that reflected some of the turmoil of the late 70s and early 80s.
In the 1990s, the Caribbean region was opening up, and right along with that came a flood of Pan-Africanist ideas, which started to impact the visual art story our nation was still writing. That collision became evident in the work of popular artists such as Petrona Morrison, Stanford Watson, and Omari Ra. There was also the rise of monuments being produced from the hands of famous sculptors such as Basil Watson, Laura Facey, and Raymond Watson.
In the 2000s, you'll see more of what's happening in the diaspora and diaspora artists speaking about their own realities as well as their connections with Jamaica.
Also, Paint Jamaica's mural project took off in Kingston.
It has been the kind of cross-pollination again with the realities of the global artistic community, with people seeing the dynamism and the potential of murals beyond being a memorial, but ways to create urban renewal, ways to create environments of safety.
And our biennials continue to evolve with a changing artistic landscape.
The biennial has evolved in a way to be much more inclusive of the diaspora. So it's been reaching out in its scope, and that has been reflected in what is exhibited in this current biennial.
So that cross-pollination between Jamaicans living in different places has created an overarching trajectory of how our 60th year in the arts have come to a sort of global village in how Jamaicans are looking at themselves, both as Jamaicans at home and abroad.
This is where the journey ends inside Jamaica Magazine for today. Be here on this station tomorrow and we will have much more to share. Until then, there are lots to watch over on our website, jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Remember, live good and do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.